Okay, now we move on to page 76 starts with what teams are. Now you see the difference here is a small group whose members share goals, commitments, and accountability for results. So now our group has a bigger mission, and now we're a team. What's really interesting is I like the new trends. You know, you see these boxes that are in our textbooks. Sometimes they're tips from the firing line or called Supervision, new trends. And this one deals with how social networking is making groups more effective. I think it's kind of a mixed bag because if you have multiple generations using social networking, they're probably going to use it differently. So we kind of have to be careful about that. We do have to have some ground rules where it's concerned. But if you look at it, it sounds a lot like Blackboard, like what we're using here to, work together as virtual teams, especially in this fully online class where the only time you're seeing me is on this webcam in my messy office. Oh, my office manager's here. You can see he's sleeping in his office chair, monitoring my work habits. So with that in mind, though, it adds another level of, I don't want to say difficulty, but another level of expertise for supervisors and leaders to be able to manage that. Now we have different ways that we develop a team, and there's one thing that's always consistent are the different stages or steps that happen when we develop a team. So if you look on page 77, they talk about the forming, storming, norming, and performing. The last step being adjourning on the next page. The best way I can explain this to you is think about a swimmer. I swim at the Y, and I just think it's hysterical when spring comes and they have the little kids come in and they're taking their first swim lessons. I think they're tadpoles or minnows or something. And they come in and they got their little floaties on, right? And they got their little vests on and everything. And they're all excited. And you can see them walking hand in hand with their instructor. And as they're coming along the pool, if you watch their faces, you start to see this look of, okay, this doesn't seem like part of the deal. I was thinking when mom and dad were telling me how great this was going to be, I'm thinking of the little kiddie pool in the backyard, not this giant ocean, right? This Olympic pool, right? So when I really, I see it every time, and it always reminds me of how groups or teams, the struggle they go through when they start forming in the workplace. So we see our little swimmers come out, right? And they have to form, a swim team. And they're really skeptical. They want to know, why are we here? Okay, this isn't what I signed up for. What's the program? They have lots of questions, a lot of trepidation about the process, what's going to happen here. So that's part of the forming part of it. A lot of stress at that point, really, as well. And then it rolls into storming. Now, the storming is when, okay, if you look at the book, it's the second stage of development. Now this is when the real conflict starts. This is when the kids go, ain't getting in the pool. Nope, you lied. You misdirected me. This is not what I thought I was getting into. I thought I was going to get into 6 inches of water in the kiddie pool in the backyard. Not getting in. Well, it's hysterical to watch because there is flat out resistance to this, and you see it in adults in exactly the same way. I don't want to be here. I've got other work to do. That's usually the main thing we hear. I have other work to do. I have my work to do, and here I am. And all of this storming goes on. This is also when people are jockeying for position. They don't know what their roles are. You need to do these things up front. Everybody needs to know what their role is before we get into this. Well, nobody knows what that is, so they're storming. They're really upset. Well, it takes the leader, to sort all of this out and help people get back on track. If you do not do that, your teams will continue to storm. You can't leave them in that stage for too long because they're not performing. They're not doing anything yet. They're still jockeying and pushing and shoving. This is when mom and dad finally just have to push the kids into the pool. Right? And they're flailing around, right? Of course, they got so many floating devices on, like you couldn't sink them. They're like little bobbers, right? And you, as the leader in the workplace, you need to help these people understand you're not going to sink. You're going to float. You're going to be fine. And this is how we're going to do it. So you need to pull people through the storming stage. So you need to perfect these skills. Because once you do, you start the normalization process, which is the third step. This is when we start going, oh, okay, I kind of understand what everybody's place is. I know who I am in the group. I know where I stand, so to speak. You can start actually then producing. Now, you're not really performing yet. Our little swimmers are in the pool now, and they've kind of figured out, oh, look at that. I'm like a little bobber. I just bob around, and nothing bad has happened, right? And pretty soon they start doing a little dog paddle, right? And they start putting around. This kind of fun now, right? Because they're kind of excited, and but they're not necessarily performing any great feats yet, right? They actually haven't graduated from the class. The same thing happens in the workplace. The adults start normalizing, the conflict reduces, they start looking at maybe timelines and setting up a plan. Now, once you can get them through that, and this is again, your job is to help facilitate this, you get them to the performing stage. And once those little swimmers start performing, they're just cute as heck, because now the floaties have come off, the vests have come off, they get a noodle, right? You're the noodle, you're the leader. Right? You're the noodle. You're the one that's supposed to be guiding them to help them perform really well. So you are the resource person. You're not there to run the show necessarily, and you may be a participant within this group as well, and you should be. But by now, you don't have to micromanage. Back off, because once your team starts performing, you just need to be the resource person. Be there when they need you, just like our little lifeguards are now with our swimmers with their noodle. Right? They're swimming now, man. You know, I mean, they've got it. Then maybe they've graduated to the next level. They went from a minnow, and now they're a tadpole. Pretty soon they're a dolphin and all of that. Well, they don't need you very much anymore now, do they? So then once we have the performing, that's when, you know, I talked about effectiveness earlier. That's what's happening. All of those things on that circle, that diagram has come together. Now you have an effective team that is actually performing. Now, once you perform and you fulfill the task, then we adjourn the group. Sometimes we don't do that very well. We don't necessarily celebrate our accomplishments as well as we should. But when we adjourn, you know, you as the leader, make sure you do that. Make sure you say, you know what, you guys really rocked this. You did great. Now, if they didn't do so great, you need to, you know, have a chat about that too. But you can do it in a positive way. So with that in mind, you guys can read the benefits of teamwork. They give you that nice little table, team characteristics associated with team productivity. That's what relates to this benefits area. And then when it gets on to leading the team, which I already said earlier, that's the really hard part. You know, you have to be skilled in those 5 different areas that this book talks about. You know, about coaching the team, selection of the right team members, team building, communication in the team, and then rewards. Now, coaching the team, you really have to step up your game to be able to lead teams, because you're working with multiple personalities, especially if you have a cross-functional team. You have people from different departments. So you have to be really skilled and work on those, I hate to use the phrase people skills, but I'll use it here, people skills. That means your interpersonal skills, okay? Selecting the right team members. If people keep asking, why am I here? And they don't understand what their contribution is, maybe they shouldn't be on the team. So don't invite everybody, because you feel bad if you don't invite them. They're going to feel like they didn't get an invitation to the party. Because believe me, the rest of us are going, oh my gosh, please don't invite me to the party. I got enough work to do unless I have to be there. The team building part, that comes later when we get into the team building classes. We'll go much deeper into that. The supervisory skills on page 81 talks about coaching. Communication within the teams, that's pretty straightforward. And rewards. Now, here's what's interesting. How do we reward a team? Should we reward them on an individual basis, or do we reward the team based on the end product and the value of that? So how do you evaluate people within a team? Because it's a very sticky proposition. You guys are going to do group projects together, right? I put you together in teams. Well, guess what? I don't work on your team. I don't know who the one is who is never doing their work. I don't know the one who procrastinates and doesn't turn anything into his team members to the last minute. I don't know the one who never communicated with the team ever, right? And by the way, we better get used to virtual teams, because in the workplace, we do it all the time. So what I do is you earn so many points for the end product, what your team produces, but there are also peer evaluation points. That comes from your peers. So let's say it's a big project. Let's say it's a full-term project, right? Or a full class project. It might be worth 150 written points. The other 100 might come from your peers. That's painful, right? Because I'm not giving you those. This is based on your work with your peers. Now, I do know that there are personal conflicts. If I see that you have 5 members on the team and 3 of your peers have given you, stellar scores, 90 plus, and 1 person on the team gave you 2, well, there's something skewed there. And I generally means that there was a personal conflict I was not aware of, something that I couldn't intervene with, and I throw those out because I average these scores, okay? So you should pay attention to that because this is how other people view you as a teammate, okay? Play nice in the sandbox. I'm going to say it over and over. You are going to bump into someone 10 years later you never thought you'd see again, and you better hope they remember you favorably. Because believe me, if you were a jerk on the team, they'll remember that. And your luck, you'll be sitting across from them asking for a job, right? And they'll go, didn't we work together on a project back in school on blah, blah, blah? And they're thinking, wow, that person never did any work, didn't turn their stuff in. They were antagonistic towards the other teammates. I don't think I want them working here. People remember this stuff. Now, what goes along with with teams is meetings. Then the book gets into that. Patrick Lencioni's Death by Meeting. Please buy it and read it and keep it on your desk. It is hysterical. He writes in parables, like telling stories, but they're all business stories, and he's a great consultant. So he intermixes this because business books are so darn boring. I've read a gazillion of them, but this is one. Well, actually, I would recommend any of Patrick Lencioni's work. He has a great book. Where it's probably on my shelf right here. Turf Wars. Yeah, Silos, Politics, and Turf Wars. That's the shift war thing. That's by Patrick Lencioni. We got to have meetings. We already know that. They're just usually really bad. People come late. We don't have any ground rules. People leave early. People sit and play on their electronics and their phones. Well, you need to make sure that you're prepared for all of that. You need to know who, what, where, when. It's your responsibility as the leader. So, I'll tell you a little trick. I heard about this last year, or maybe a couple years ago now. I came upon it's called naked meetings. It's not what you're thinking. Nobody's taking their clothes off at work. That would just be icky. God, the last thing you want to do is see your boss naked. Anyway, it's very early in the morning. I apologize. But naked meetings are, some companies started doing this thing where they had a basket at the door. All your electronic devices went in the basket. Or they did another, so you were naked from your phones, basically. And some of them had a little twist on it. In the center of the table, they'd have everybody put their phones. And the first person who couldn't resist and had to put them on vibrate or shut them off. Now, if you chose to leave it on vibrate or not do that, the first person who could not resist grabbing their phone and checking it had to buy the whole entire team dinner or lunch or whatever it is. So there are ways, there are tricks to being able to conduct good meetings. You have to be an excellent facilitator. I can't explain how important it is to understand and learn facilitation skills. It is everything to a meeting. How do you direct that person who goes on and on and on and on and on and they're off topic? How do you bring them back in? Another trick, it's called the parking lot. There's a little piece of chart paper that's blank. Put it on the wall, right on the top, parking lot. When people get off track, you go, oh, hang on. That's a really good idea. That's a really valid idea. But you know what? That's really not what we're here for. I understand why you thought of it, but that's not what we're here for today. We're going to put it in the parking lot. That means that we can go back to it at another time, or maybe we need to have another meeting just on that topic. But anyway, it pulls that person back into the fold. It recognizes the importance of what they talked about, and it gets it off the table for that meeting. Stay on task. So be prepared for your meetings. Agendas, you guys are using an agenda with me. I do it because I know you're going to use agendas at work. They should be a living document, though. They shouldn't be so strict and rigid that we go down each one. We often have either too much or not enough detail. They give you an example here on page 84. But do a little research on your own about agenda writing. And Patrick Lencioni in his Death by Meeting talks about agendas as well. And I can't remember what his perspective is. He might be the one that says throw them out. In any case, you get agendas from me because I want you to be used to using them. Those are our action items for the day, which means our meeting or our class meeting, right? At the end are the action items for the next meeting, which for you guys means assignments. That's why your assignments are at the end of the agenda. Those are the action items for the next time you would come to class. Conducting a meeting, you can read through that. Pretty self-explanatory on overcoming problems with meetings here. It's very brief. We're going to learn a lot more about that in our other class. And we're going to learn more and more about conflict in general here in the personal skills class. These are the basic, that's why it's called personal skills. That's why it's time management, dealing with conflict, all of that. It will feed into and help you control your meetings, to the nth degree. So that's our wrap up. Chapter 3, Supervision. I think we're in the 8th edition right now. If we're in another edition soon, I might have to redo it because then they'll change the page numbers on me. So have a great day, everybody.